Today is Wednesday, February 26th. We're talking about Republicans' latest move to slash government programs and cut taxes. Also, the White House is changing how news outlets are allowed to cover the president. Plus, a festival hosted more people than the population of the U.S. An American sports legend is calling it a career. And famous musicians released an album that's completely silent. We'll tell you why. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Lawmakers are moving forward with President Trump's plan for massive tax cuts. The U.S. House passed a new budget bill, mostly along party lines. All Republicans but one voted yes. The bill got no support from Democrats. So what's in it exactly? For starters, $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. But the rest of the details are still pretty murky. For example, the bill does not actually say which taxes should be lowered or exactly how to make up for the $4.5 trillion in lost revenue. It does call for $2 trillion in spending cuts over the next decade to make up for part of it. But it's not clear exactly which federal programs will get slashed. Top Republicans are looking at Medicaid and food aid programs for lower-income Americans. And even still, the bill would add roughly $3 trillion to the federal deficit, meaning it would add trillions to the amount America spends that is over what the government brings in. But the bill addresses that too by raising the debt limit, aka the max amount of debt the government can have. Granted, it's not a done deal yet. Last night's vote sends the budget resolution to the Senate, and it needs to be approved there as well, even though senators have been working on their own version. So, to be continued. While Republicans in Congress search for cuts, Republicans in the White House are doing the same thing. And this week, we're finally getting to see what's already been axed. The Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE, published what it's calling a wall of receipts. It shows what contracts have been canceled, along with other cost-cutting measures. But as several news outlets like the AP report, the so-called receipts are misleading, and nearly 40% of the federal contracts canceled are not actually expected to save the government any money. Apparently, money has already been fully committed to some of the contracts listed. So even if they get canceled, the expenses don't go away. Still, officials in the Trump administration say it makes sense to cancel contracts seen as dead weight, even if it doesn't yield any savings. And since most of the contracts were set to auto-renew, canceling them now could save taxpayers in the future. The slash and burn effort is still sparking a lot of backlash, though. 21 DOGE staffers quit yesterday. In a letter, they said they did not want to use their skills to help undermine essential services. They also claimed DOGE has been mishandling Americans' sensitive data. The White House did not respond to those accusations. But it did clear up another DOGE mystery yesterday. The White House named an acting administrator of DOGE, and it's not Elon Musk. It's Amy Gleason, who was a senior advisor to the U.S. Digital Service. As for Musk, the Trump administration just says he's an employee in the White House office, albeit an important one. Today, President Trump is hosting the first White House cabinet meeting of his second term, and Elon Musk is expected to be there. The White House is looking to change how all of this information gets out to the American people. And in doing so, it's breaking more than 100 years of precedent. Specifically, the Trump administration is going to start handpicking which media outlets are allowed in the presidential press pool. That's the small, rotating group of reporters who relay the president's day-to-day activities to the public and other news organizations around the world. For 111 years, it's been the White House Correspondents Association picking those reporters, most often from traditional news organizations like the AP, Reuters, Fox News, CNN, and the New York Times. But now the Trump administration says it wants to welcome in some new voices from digital media, too. Well, the White House Correspondents Association is not happy. It put out a statement saying, quote, "In a free country, leaders must not be able to choose their own press corps." And it promised to keep advocating for the rights of a free press. The move was also denounced by senior White House correspondents from the New York Times, Politico, Fox News, and more. Already, the Trump administration added a new media seat in the White House briefing room, and the Pentagon removed major media outlets from their office spaces at the Pentagon to make room for new, different voices. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is planning to visit President Trump at the White House this week, and together they're expected to announce a new mineral deal. A Ukrainian official says both sides have already agreed to the terms. He did not say exactly what they are, but the BBC says Ukraine will likely contribute revenues from its mineral resources in exchange for real financial commitments from the U.S. to help Ukraine fend off Russia's invasion. Ukrainian officials have said they hope the deal can help reset their country's relationship with the U.S. That's been rocky since President Trump's team met with the Russian government and since Trump and Zelensky traded insults. They're expected to be friendly when they meet this Friday. What's being called the largest gathering on Earth is coming to a close today. For the last 6 weeks, Kumbh Mela has attracted 500 million pilgrims and tourists to sacred riverbanks in India for rituals, prayers, cultural performances, spiritual discussion, and more. The main activity is a ritual bathing that pilgrims believe will wash away sins and deliver salvation. Most of the people who go are Hindu, but the event also drew interest from people of other faiths who were curious about the cultural and spiritual significance of the event. The festival is believed to be at least 2 millennia old. A full Kumbh Mela is held every 12 years, but this year's festival was even more special since it coincided with an alignment of the planets and stars. So it was a grand version that only happens once every 144 years. The big farewell happens today. More news for you still coming up, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor. If you're not getting the results from your skincare that you want, or you don't like the feel of it on your face, or maybe you don't have skincare that you can actually be consistent with, you've got to try OneSkin. I've been using OneSkin's OS1 face and eye topical supplements, and it's so simple to do every morning and night with just a couple of pumps, so I'm actually using it. Plus, the product feels amazing on my face, and I love the effects I'm seeing over time. OneSkin's topical supplements are backed by lab and clinical studies, and they're all powered by the OS1 peptide, the first and only peptide scientifically proven to target specific cells that contribute to lines, wrinkles, and thinning skin. Founded and led by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with that proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to help skin look, feel, and behave like its younger self. Get 15% off with code newsworthy at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with the code newsworthy. And after your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you. Okay, now back to the news. The riskiest asteroid on record now has almost no chance of impacting Earth. This is that same asteroid NASA warned about just a few weeks ago. At that point, the odds of a strike in 2032 were as high as about 3%. Well, now scientists say there's no threat of impact for the next century after all, and there is no chance the odds will rise again. Granted, there is still a slight chance an asteroid could hit the moon in 2032, but those odds could fade as well. Either way, the world's telescopes will keep tracking it. The U.S. has more aviation problems to deal with. Besides investigating the crashes we told you about earlier this year, the FAA is now looking into a series of near misses on airport runways. There were actually 2 of them just in the span of 90 minutes yesterday. First, it was an American Airlines flight that flew from Boston to Washington, D.C. that reported the problem. It was making its final descent into Washington's Reagan National Airport when pilots were suddenly told to turn the plane back toward the skies and away from the airport. The FAA says that last-minute move kept it from hitting another plane that was ready to take off from the same runway. It was a similar situation for the pilots of a Southwest Airlines flight flying from Omaha, Nebraska to Chicago, Illinois. The landing was abruptly canceled when a business jet apparently got onto the runway without authorization. Both planes safely landed eventually, and no one was hurt. The dictation feature on some iPhones is making a pretty noticeable mistake. It's been transcribing the word racist as Trump before correcting itself, as is evident by tons of videos posted on social media. I also tested this out overnight, and it was still happening on my iPhone. Apple blames a phonetic overlap between the 2 words, and the same issue is happening when people say other words like rampage or ruffles. Still, one tech executive who used to work on Apple's Siri team told the New York Times this, quote, smells like a serious prank. Either way, Apple says it's working on a fix. 1,000 British musicians released an album together, including Annie Lennox, Billy Ocean, Tori Amos, Cat Stevens, Bush, and The Clash. But don't get your hopes up. The album's recordings are just the sounds of silent, empty studios and performance spaces. It's all to make a point, since the artists want to demonstrate the impact of changing the UK's copyright laws. The British government is considering proposals to let artificial intelligence companies train models by using copyrighted work that's available online without paying creators. Backers say current copyright restrictions are holding back creative industries, media, and AI from realizing their full potential. But artists say the proposals would hand musicians' work over to AI companies for free just so those companies can exploit their work and outcompete them. All profits from the Silent album will be donated to a charity called Help Musicians. A WNBA icon is stepping away from the game of basketball, at least professionally. Diana Taurasi announced her retirement in Time magazine, saying, quote, "Mentally and physically, I'm just full." This marks an end to a 2-decade career that made Taurasi the league's all-time leading scorer, a 6-time Olympic gold medalist, and a 3-time WNBA champion. Oh, and while in college, she won 3 NCAA tournament championships as well. Now that she's calling it a career, Taurasi told Time she looks forward to watching someone younger come around and topple her records, though she added, hopefully not soon. And that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, this episode is brought to you by Hiya Health. It's that time of year, sick season. It's just one of many reasons I'm glad my son takes his Hiya Children's Vitamin every morning. It helps support his immunity, energy, brain function, mood, his developing body, and more, no matter what other chaos may be going on in our lives. Formulated with the help of pediatricians and nutritional experts, Hiya is pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies, then supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and many others. And if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with more than 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. And we've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. You can receive 50% off, yes, half off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website, so go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. The federal government's efforts to downsize could ultimately amount to the biggest job cut in American history. The White House has not given an exact number yet, but the firings are at least in the tens of thousands and could end up in the hundreds of thousands. If the workers can't quickly find other jobs, they and their households could struggle to make ends meet. And that could have a ripple effect, since they're likely to spend less money at businesses like restaurants and daycares. Plus, other federal employees may cut back or delay big purchases, worried their jobs could be cut next. So there will likely be at least some economic consequences. But some economists say the U.S. economy as a whole probably won't take too big of a hit. For example, the Yale University Budget Lab says if about 200,000 workers lose their jobs, it would shave about 0.1 a percentage point from the GDP. Of course, we'll have to wait a little while longer to see the full impact. The job cuts are not likely to show up in the federal data for another month. And for those who took the buyout offer, not until September. Thank you so much for listening today and for sharing the show. You can further support our work here and get access to ad-free episodes by becoming a Newsworthy Insider. You can start your free trial at thenewsworthy.com/insider. And Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to episodes of The Newsworthy ad-free in the Wondery app. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.